The studio is my favorite place to be when the weather begins to turn. During this season, I like to take stock of all the small things for which I'm grateful. Like the scraps of paper that get piled up on my desk after several successful collage sessions. That's so hard to say. After several successful collage sessions. Say that 10 times fast. After several successful collage sessions. When I see scraps, I see potential. So today we're going to use those scraps to make new art. And if that sounds like fun to you, I hope you'll stick around and see what good can come from appreciating small things. I'm starting today with a watercolor I made a few years ago. I made it with the intention of pinning it to the wall of my cubicle at work, and for several seasons, it lived there happily. But, like with all things, the seasons changed. I got a new job elsewhere, without cubicle walls to pin to. So it came down and followed me home. I think it will make a good base on which to begin a new experiment. See, I want to try making a scrap collage that's a little more sympathetic to the background. Perhaps refrain from covering it so completely with acrylic paint. I have to begin by saying that I attempted to adjust my camera placement, so if it seems like I'm half off screen, it's because I am. Apologies, it does eventually get better when I fully realize what I'm doing. Special thanks here to Angela K42 for your advice on these hole punch out things. They came with these little sliding things on the bottom that sort of catch the paper, which I don't know who needs that, but it wasn't me. And so she suggested I just take those off, and absolutely, it was the best idea. It has made my life so much better. And now there are way fewer fights that I have with these stupid hole punches, so thank you. So typically when I make a scrappy collage, I just cover the whole background with paper, and then later I start thinking about what the composition really should be. Sometimes I layer the paper based on color, sometimes not. But in this case, because I didn't want to cover the entire background, I was trying to be thoughtful about the pieces that I laid down, thinking that they might interact more as elements versus a background, if that makes sense. Outside, the trees shiver off their leaves as the blue jays, red-breasted robins, and dark-eyed juncos busy themselves with all the important things required to survive a long winter. As restful as this season can be, I do have a tendency to get a little depressed, and I hesitate to say depressed, it's just the only word that really comes to mind. My mood invariably shifts, as if a part of me is going into hibernation. I lose some of my natural exuberance, and I feel more tired. My family jokes that they think I'm powered by the sun, and I think they might be right. I try not to see these changes in myself as a problem that needs to be fixed, but rather a natural rhythm of my own soul. I do use this season to reset, and I think that gives me a lot of hope. I buy seeds and books, and I begin to dream. After a small break of dreaming, I'm back in the studio, and I'm not entirely happy with the result of my first experiment. So I pull out another slip of paper and start again. After trimming this offcut up, I just start gluing things down in my usual fashion. That is to say, I don't really have a rhyme or a reason other than just covering the page with as many pieces of paper as possible. Despite all the color, I felt this piece was looking very flat. So I pulled out my black Posca marker and began making more marks. I've heard this advice before that adding black can help to ground your artwork. It provides more depth to the piece. And I agree, I think this addition was really adding something. And then disaster struck. I pressed down on the nib to allow more paint to flow out, and the result was a flood of acrylic paint pouring over my piece. It mixed with the yellow, it was a mess. I really do love when this sort of thing happens, like not in the moment. In the moment, of course, I feel this frustration with myself for making a mistake. But inevitably, I remember that there are no mistakes. I try to channel my inner Bob Ross and tell myself that this is but a happy accident. So this piece wasn't going to be what I thought it was. Not a problem. That's what we're here for, right? We're here for the journey, not the destination. So much paint ended up coming out that I am lifting the piece up and trying to get the paint to flow around on the page. I don't know, just trying anything really. Eventually, I decide to cut my losses for the day and just take a break. I try to let things dry and approach it again with fresh eyes and hopefully just a little less frustration. When I return, I decide to layer on some red lines. I think this provides a bit more form to the accidental shapes I created with the flood of black. I tend to try to create things that have some semblance of a composition that is recognizable as something to someone. Typically landscapes. And this one definitely was not that. the more I look at it, the more I kind of like it. There's definitely lots to look at, even if it's not sensical. And there you have it, two very different scrappy collages. One an experiment and the other a mistake. I'd love to hear in the comments what experiments you're doing in your studio, or if you've made any mistakes recently, like the one I made, what's your solution? How do you get around it or through it? Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you being here. And if you do want to hang out a little longer with me today, then YouTube thinks you might like this video. Okay, I think that's it. Bye. See ya. Bye.